Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, guys, the market has been taking a bit of an ass kicking today, although to be honest, not that surprising. And to be fair, we have just seen a nice big bounce very recently, so that's beautiful to see. But basically, where we ended up topping out in this purple box here, I mean, that's shouldn't be too much of a surprise that that was a bit of a rejection zone. That was my midterm Stuber fib pull that I had mentioned this as basically my target or potential resistance to watch for. Basically right after taking my trade here, and then it was both Monday and Tuesday I was doing public streams, and I had mentioned this, and that's basically where I was thinking that we would run to. At this point, are we going to break that? What's going to happen from here? I mean, basically, guys, since that was such a beautiful position, I did end up taking a bunch of profits on the way up, the last time being up in this pocket here, just for obvious reasons. It's obvious resistance. I still have about 30% of this position running, as I would hate to lose such a beautiful entry for a possible swing position here. But as always, I was taking profits along the way because I would also hate to round trip a perfect trade like that. So what's next for Bitcoin? Have we bottomed? Or more importantly, guys, have we topped? I want to zoom out to the weekly chart here. And I mean, I don't have huge concerns on the weekly yet. I do have a bit of a concern with one. We still have that bearish divergence on the RSI there. And also just the fact that we technically set a micro higher high here and then lost that, got a bit of a swing fail rejection here. So I mean, at this point, even this bounce that we've seen, it makes perfect sense that, you know, early in the week, even towards the end of the week, that we test back into the previous candle, right? So this bounce isn't all too surprising to see one of some kind. Is it going to stick? Honestly, I don't know. We're going to have to see from here, basically. I will still be looking at lower time frames and whatnot, but you know, the fact that we lost this little bit of structure here, again, the fact that we never had candle bodies closing higher, at least it wasn't losing a very obvious strong level of support. I mean, yeah, it is a little bit of one, but I would have felt a lot more bearish about losing this if this green candle had closed above this wick, for example, and then ended up losing that structure. I would have some pretty harsh thoughts about it at that point. But there are a few things that we have to acknowledge, and that's just the fact that, you know what, at this point we are starting a little bit of a bearish trend, and it's more obvious on a midterm trend. So the long term, we're going to have to see what happens. But another thing that basically has caught my attention, and someone was actually talking about it in the chat earlier today, and it's something that I have followed a little bit. I haven't looked at it in probably a month or two, but just kind of looking at how long these market cycles have lasted and like how many weeks that we go from cycle low to cycle high, basically. And you know, where we're at right now, basically from where we bottomed, we are at about 147, getting close to 150 weeks, basically. That on its own, okay, well, what's your point, Stu? Well, my point is that we've seen this before. I can't remember if it was this one here where our first peak was actually only about 123, but where we actually peaked was just over 150 candles. So 153 from bear market bottom to absolute bull market peak was just over 150 weekly candles. Back here, was there another one? So this cycle here, again, right around that 150 candles on the weekly chart right there. I don't think the first cycle followed that same pattern. I think this is about the only one that was shorter. It was about 110. But basically, these last two cycles that we've had, they've lasted from bottom to top was about 150 weeks, and that's approximately where we're at right now. Honestly, I'm not a time analyst. I would rather go by structure, but that is just something to consider based on the fact that Bitcoin does go in 4-year cycles. The halving goes in 4-year cycles. Typically, the market cycle just is about 4 years, and typically the uptrend is around 150 weeks. So it's just something to consider on its own. Not too concerned, but we start losing more important structure levels like that, and I'm gonna have some serious concerns, because let's even zoom in a little bit. Like, guys, I mean, this is just basically the midterm trend resistance that I laid out here, right? I actually think that we could push higher. If we push higher, I don't necessarily think that the bulls have a clear ride at this point, because we have lost very serious structure on the 4-hour chart, right, guys? I was very vocal about being bullish as we came down and got our swing fail here. You know, I was taking profits on this pump, but not willing to short. Zeus, I know you shorted that. Beautiful call there. I was more looking for these swing fails, and I did get one, got a beautiful one there, but we ended up eventually losing that. And so the fact that we lost that higher low structure, because here's our high, here's our higher high, that's my confirmed higher low on the trend, and we've lost that. So that is a big, it's a big frowny on the structure for me. So let's just say that we end up breaking this midterm resistance that we have right now. Well, at that point, then we can consider the macro resistance, because we have that break in structure, right? So if I pull a fib, this is just basically my requirements for a Stuber fib. So just because this is a 4-hour, it's the exact same I would treat a 5-minute. If you break that micro trend, the more immediate trend, then you're looking for the bigger move back to the swing levels. So if we end up breaking past this 115 around 114.4K, if we break above that, I really think it's smooth sail until about 120,000. That's where I'm going to start to be quite concerned again, and I'll start to be a little bit cautious, probably looking for some sort of hedge shorts again. Ideally, I would like to catch those in a swing fail up here again, possibly get a third touch point on that diagonal resistance, but also lining up in that 1 to the 115 fib pocket, just like this one did, right? If I pull a fib from this previous swing here, notice we never broke that 115. We got a perfect swing fail of that pocket and sent it to new lows. So if we end up getting to that level and not breaking the 115 and losing that level, our all-time highs again at about 124.6K, you know, we get above and re-lose that, I'm going to be treating it like a swing fail again and looking at some sort of short positions at that point. We'll have to see what happens. And I mean, it's very possible with that break of our higher low that we only get up to the 786 or 886, whatever, and see a rejection, something like that. Absolutely possible. Basically, what I'm saying is if we go for a nice climb around 120K, start to expect some possible resistance. It's not to say that we have to nuke from there, but start looking for those bearish confirmations at that point, because at least at that point, rather than shorting into support, you're actually shorting a retest of your new resistance, basically. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on the 4-hour there. To go with this higher low here that we ended up losing, I mean, I was talking about this many times too, is we had these trending higher buy signals, where we had this buy signal down here, higher buy signal. That's often confirmation that a trend is going to continue. And to be fair, it did. It got a beautiful pump off that. If you ended up longing the retest of this indicator, beautiful pump to the upside, plenty of time to take some profits. But from there, we have ended up losing that level, which is that same higher low that I was talking about. So this is basically where we got our last pivot, where we ended up creating our next buy signal, right? So we do currently still, we do have... So here's one of those times, getting a little tongue-tied, getting ahead of myself here. Here's one of those times where we actually have mixed signals, and the uptrend could still end up continuing, is the fact that, you know, since this sell signal down here, they have still been printing higher sell signals. So even though we lost this buy, the sells are still trending to the upside. It's if we end up printing a lower sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster that I would start to have very strong concerns once again. That's where I would start to consider that we are not going to retest this level, is if, let's say right now we get a nice little climb, we get a new buy signal, but it's significantly lower. But then we end up losing support and turning around a little bit early and printing a lower sell signal, for example. That's where it's a big warning that the trend could be taking a nasty shift, basically. So that is something to be on the lookout for. You guys, I've said this many times, and I know I was talking about it in the Micro Gems chat yesterday. Understand that indicators, a lot of people only use indicators because they want to find more entries. But honestly, another great reason to use indicators is looking for that risk management, just looking for, you know, everyone knows you should be looking at structure first and looking for indicators for confirmations, kind of a thing. And that's where, you know, if you have structure forming to the upside and buy signals are trending to the upside, therefore the bulls are stepping in earlier and earlier, just pushing the price higher, that's just beautiful confirmation of the trend, right? So same thing goes to the opposite, whereas if we start pushing lower sell signals, that's where I'm going to have my concerns on the market. And I'll actually bring that up with Trio later because I know that's a hot topic in this group, and just got to say some truths about it, basically. But Bitcoin right now, where we ended up getting topped out. So here's my concern once again. Yeah, it's great to see that, you know, even after testing this midterm resistance, we get this pullback, got a nice big aggressive buyback here. But I'm going to take a bet, because if I were a betting man, and I definitely am, I would say that I know exactly where we got rejected there. Actually, you know what? All right, fair enough. Never quite made it to the 786 yet. But we could end up seeing a bit of a retest like that. So just to get people FOMOing into long positions right into resistance, basically, once again, right? So be on the lookout for that as well for the shorter time frames. I'm personally not shorting this right now, but it's still good to be on alert for resistance levels, you know, rather than FOMOing long into resistance. Maybe looking for reasons to, like, if I hadn't taken a bunch of profits on this position already, if I hadn't closed 70% of it already on this climb, I would be looking at taking more profits right now just because of this potential rejection on the retest, basically. Not saying it has to, but that's just how I would be playing it safe right now to protect myself, if nothing else. I still think we can push higher, but we'll have to see what happens with that. I do want to zoom into the what was it? The 1 hour, I believe it was. The 1 hour is a nice midterm, according to me, a midterm time frame. The 1 hour and the 4 hour I consider midterm. But this is a perfect example where we still have these trending lower buy signals and lower sell signals, right? So this would have been our big warning, right? We ended up getting that lower sell signal. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and even another one after that, right? Now this one, we'll see if it plays out again, but so far that trend is still going to the downside. Basically, the way this would be broken is if we break the latest lower sell signal, which I'm going to consider this pivot back here because that's where we topped and then got our sell signal. So basically, if we break above the Stuber fib at that point, I think there's some strength showing at that point, and I think we can actually break this resistance. I'd still have my concerns if, again, we got some sort of a swing fail of this. I think that would be an easy short on the retest with a nice tight invalidation. But at this point, since I'm in a long and not really interested in shorting at this point until I see a bigger swing fail like that, it is what it is. But I would love to see a higher buy signal come in on the 1 hour. I think that would show a lot of strength in the bulls and confirmation that they're at least serious about trying to change the direction of this trend on the midterms. But so far, we don't have that. I'm just catching up on the old chat a little bit here. That's funny, Zeus. That picture of Max on the chart. JB as well. That's funny. Plummet, we should get some structure breaking lows, run to new highs or all-time high, and then fail again, and then game over. Yeah, I would have my concerns if, like I said, on the longer time frame, or I guess this is the midterm, but that line would stand true on the weekly technically with those wicks. Let me just erase a couple things here. Yeah, I think that if we got new highs again, I just can't help but feel like Bitcoin has either topped already or is very close to a top. If we end up breaking above 127.3, we invalidate that 115, then I'm open to that idea that we go a little bit higher. But I really don't know how much higher Bitcoin's going to go this cycle, unless this cycle is actually different and it ends up being a much slower, longer cycle, basically, where we don't get our blow off top and we just keep kind of staircasing higher very slowly on longer time frames. You know, now that bigger players are in the space, maybe they're slowing down the price action, right? So, you know, in that case, sure, it could go a lot higher, but I don't think it would be a big explosive move. I think it would be a slow grind, if anything. But I don't know. I really have a feeling that Bitcoin is very near its high for the cycle. That doesn't necessarily mean I think that like it's bear market on, anything like that. I really believe that Bitcoin, well, what I'm hoping for, and I guess the market doesn't care what I hope for, but I would love to see Bitcoin either one, just trade in a bigger range like this, or an even bigger range, something like this. You know, just some sort of a distribution range. I think that would give altcoins a fairly good window to make their big move for the end of the cycle as well. The S&P 500, you guys, actually still holding a nice big weekly order block. At this point, if we lose this block, then yeah, sure, I see a big correction coming. But as it stands right now, it just keeps trending higher. Like Bitcoin is the one asset that's actually really struggling right now for how bullish of an asset it is. It's really struggling recently. S&P doing okay. Bitcoin dominance. So this is why I also say if Bitcoin ranges in some sort of distribution range, that it would be very good for altcoins, is it would give the Bitcoin dominance a chance for this pattern to play out. I actually have to change this fib a little bit. It's supposed to be on my resistance fibs. Something like that. Lock that in there. But yeah, basically, as far as this rejection goes, I mean, this, guys, I know I've pointed this out in my last few streams, but this goes back over 5 years, about 5.5 years, is how big this range is. And to see us get rejected off the 786 perfectly, starting to lose some diagonal trend lines. I know not everyone likes diagonal trend lines. I do use them sometimes. I had some very clean ones mapped out on this chart, and we've lost both of them. So as long as, you know, we keep dropping levels like that, and the fact that as a bearish Stuber fib goes, you know, there's still a lot of room to the downside. We haven't even reached the first target yet, which would be the 0.5 fib. Second target would obviously be the 214 target. So if that's going to happen, I mean, this is a weekly chart, you guys. It would take a long time to play out, most likely. I mean, not necessarily that long, but it'll take a while on a weekly chart, right? So, like I said, if Bitcoin could range and form some sort of, like I said, distribution pattern, and then eventually get that bear market, but let altcoins do their thing, let Bitcoin dominance drop off a cliff. Ethereum versus Bitcoin as well, still holding a nice trend on the daily, right? We keep staircasing higher, breaking our higher highs, and then confirming our higher lows. And as well with the trend master on the daily, we have this nice buy trend, which is actually lining up very close with basically my support of this, right? Even if I pull a fib like that, notice that that support is now directly at the 886 of that fib pull. So just a little additional confluence there, and that's on a daily. And guys, I know I've talked about this recently a lot too, but basically since April, actually let me get that more accurate. Since April, I mean, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin by almost 150%, and Bitcoin was doing fantastic. It had a nice pump. This is nothing against Bitcoin. This is just showing the strength in the altcoins recently. And obviously it depends which ones. There is a lot of altcoins that have done nothing but go lower and lower and lower because everyone thought we were going to have this meme coin super cycle. Everyone thought this cycle would be different. The only thing different is our altcoin market got absolutely diluted to shit. And now, unfortunately, unlike previous cycles where you could just buy a few things and hold and get rich, now you have to actually pick the right ones, and most of them go straight to zero, basically. But the altcoins that are performing well, that are trending to the upside, they have been performing well lately. Ethereum, even Solana doing okay. I still think Solana is going to play catch up a little bit, but we're going to have to see about that. Hype has always been a strong performer for months at this point. So yeah, I don't think all hope is lost for the market yet, but I do have a feeling that Bitcoin is close to a top if it hasn't topped yet. Ethereum on the 4-hour, you guys. Actually, sorry, back to Bitcoin. With the long short ratio indicator, right? The fact that retail is still currently heavy long, about 63.8%, only 36% short. So that could still give us some fuel for the fire to burn to the downside. We'll have to see if this can cross back over. I mean, yesterday it looked like this was crossing, well, not crossing, but heading back towards each other with momentum. But already the fact that it's bouncing there, I mean, if retail is going to continue FOMO longing the dip here, I mean, that's just fuel for the market makers to end up pushing lower. So something to be cautious of with that as well, especially if we end up getting towards the more macro resistance level and retail is very long heavy around that 120K. I think that would be a big red flag to me. Let me just catch up on the chat a little bit. There has been so many opportunities, just not as obvious ones as previous cycles. Yeah, that's true. There has been plenty of coins that have done very well this cycle. Like even Bitcoin, you guys. I know a lot of people say, oh, this bull market sucked. Bitcoin is up like 700% from in this cycle, right? If we go to our cycle low to where we are, we're up over 600%. It topped around 700%. So I understand a lot of people say, oh, this bull market sucks, because when they heard that it was time to get into the market because they stopped paying attention in the bear market because everyone kind of gives up, right? Then they don't get back in until things look sexy again, and they miss the majority of the bull market again. So, you know, Bitcoin doesn't owe us anything. And yeah, the altcoin season is yet to be decided if it's been a real thing, but there has been some good performers. Lensby's got to wake up early. Good night, bro. Thanks for joining. Plumbus says we could even go into 2026 somewhat. Personally, I don't know. I just based off previous cycles and stuff, I have a feeling Bitcoin will top kind of, or get very close to a top, maybe have a retest later. But I have a feeling it'll pretty much top in December, and then I think that altcoins will still make a run into January. But that being said, like I said, we're getting towards that 150 weeks. Maybe our clock is running out. To be decided, I suppose. Read a tweet about half coin cycle this cycle for most alts, which ends up killing off many and allows the strong to stand out and run. Next bull we should have some insane alt runs. We'll see. We will see. I don't know. The crypto space has evolved so much, and that people can do whatever they want. There's always going to be stupid narratives that are, and now it's just that much easier for scammers and whatnot to, you know, take advantage of people. So many people's favorite influencers are rug pulling them, and they just don't care. Up at 5 every day, Zeus. Yeah, I'm usually a morning guy too. I just have a hard time sleeping in. Maybe that's just getting old. Meow, thanks for joining. Good night. When the money runs out, people start to care. Yeah, gotta play it day by day till it's clear. That's exactly it. That's why I like trading the shorter time frames anyways. If something happens where we end up nuking whatever on the shorter time frames, it's pretty easy to protect yourself fairly quickly. Yeah, where were we? Ethereum. Start taking a look at a few altcoins here. Ethereum on the 4 hour, still holding the range that I've been basically mentioning all week. So far holding that 786 beautifully, but honestly, even if we dropped a little bit lower towards 3,900, I wouldn't be too surprised because we still have support down there. A little bit of a swing fail pocket. If we go any lower than that, then we have to start considering, I would consider longing a dip on Ethereum. Basically, if we ended up dropping to this pocket here, do another classic test, lose that support, regain it, whatever. I would love to take along something like that. But at this point, as far as the midterm trend goes, we're still holding that higher low structure, and it even has confluence from the AI charting tools printing these pivot signals. So beautiful to see there. ALGO Master also with the auto Stuber fibs lining up perfectly with my fib pull there. So I love having that as confluence. Doesn't always line up, but when it does, I love that confluence. To be fair, we may have hit that. Well, we did basically hit the first target once already, so maybe that's it. But support is support until it's broken. So seeing a decent amount of confluence there. Trendmaster, we do have a sell signal, but we're still printing higher signals on the Trendmaster. So that's another reason actually why I would pull a fib from here. It's because that's my most recent higher low. Doesn't mean that we're going to hold it, but if this trend is going to stay strong, actually at that point, I don't even really want to see us drop below 4K. If we do and reclaim it, again, okay. But I would prefer to stay above that higher low, actually. Solana, lower buy signal, looking like a nasty trend. Again, notice that actually we did have a misfire here, although we had mixed signals rather, because we had higher buy signals still and lower sell signal. But then when we end up printing, this would actually be your more, I guess your stronger signal technically would be right here, because we get a lower sell signal and a lower buy signal and a lower sell signal. So you have the MDX Trendmaster actually agreeing. The signals are lining up. They're trending the same direction, and they've shifted which way they're going like that. That was a beautiful signal right there. I mean, so was this one, obviously, but that's the one that I would take with more confidence, just because it was lower buy and lower sell. So an obvious trend there. At this point on the 5 minute for Solana, I would want to see us, basically get above this previous one here around $208.65, $208.65 approximately. Chances are we're going to bounce around a bunch before we do that. If we go straight up to that level, I would be considering this resistance, basically a fib pull from there. For our current range, something like this. And that resistance would start around $207 US. The 886 would be closer to 208 US dollars, and then our swing fail level runs up to basically 209.70. Be interested in shorts at those levels if it starts to look weak. Speaking of weak, well, the rest of the market was fairly weak today. Troll looking fantastic. It was, I think, the only thing on my list that was actually green, and also printed a much higher buy signal on the 4 hour on the Trendmaster. Love to see that. But honestly, even before that, you guys in the Micro Gems chat, you saw that I pointed out this downtrend line. We were flipping it into support. and that came in right between that 1 and 115 fib target. I actually have a 10x long on this from this purple dotted line. I also added to my spot collection, so that's playing out beautifully, but Troll has just been on an absolute mission. Mask, cat with mask, this is another one I've been talking about recently, just because again it's got its first big Stuber fib basically, so it's holding that support, and it's same thing looking at the diagonal trend line basically. So we could kind of, I mean anything can happen, we can do that and rug pull for all I know, but as far as structure goes, I would say we could even just hug this downtrend line as support. All kind of, in my opinion, if you're a buyer of this, this is a buy level for me. I've been buying a little bit of this every day basically for the last little bit, because we are trading in a Stuber fib pocket like that. And last time I did this with Troll was when I was talking to you guys about it several months ago, but I was a buyer on Troll in the first big Stuber fib pocket that I saw, and I mean that thing did a, what was it, a 15x or something like that. Bottom to top did damn near a 30x. So yeah, that can be a very powerful signal. Either way, just buying support basically, right? The Trendmaster also caught my eye with it recently on the 4 hour, because it also printed a higher buy signal with a higher sell signal. However, recently it already showed weakness. It did print a new sell signal. One thing I will say is the whole market was dumping there, so it's possible that that signal came up. Maybe it's going to get invalidated yet, but that is a little concern that I have yet. However, that being said, we're still at support. So based just on structure, we're in that 786, 886 fib pocket. We're flipping a diagonal trend line, so there's a couple things lining up there. So that is one of my meme coins of interest. That being said, guys, I know nothing about the project other than I see some people on Twitter talking about it. I have no insider information. This is, I don't want this to be one of those things where if a random meme coin rug pulls that you hold it against me, because anything can happen with these. Any low cap coin, any meme coin, any Solana memer in the Solana casino, that's exactly what it is. It's gambling, right? They're very high risk, high reward. That's all there is to it. And honestly, even low cap coins with good fundamentals, I would say the same thing. Low cap coins are a gamble. That's basically all there is to it. And that brings me to our touchy subject for the recent months. Trio. Ordinals bought. Here we go. This ugly little guy here that a lot of people are upset about in the group. To be fair, like, I mean, I wasn't the one pushing it, but anything can happen, right? And that's why, again, it was a low cap coin. It's very high risk. You assume that these kinds of coins are high risk and you adjust your position size accordingly. But one thing that I was mentioning yesterday, you guys, is using that MDX Trendmaster again. Notice it doesn't need to only be used for finding entries. This saved me big time on this coin. When we got a lower sell signal on the 4 hour, I took it serious and I took a bunch of profits on this thing, because that was a big warning to me that, you know, I don't care what anybody's saying and how people feel about the fundamentals of this. If the chart is disagreeing with the fundamentals, I mean, the chart is what matters to my wallet, basically. And we just set lower sell signal, lower sell signal, lower sell, lower sell. This one took a little bounce, but again, no higher buy or anything. So the trend continued. Another lower sell, and just the pattern continues, right? So understand, the first time that this indicator that all of us here with me right now have access to, this indicator warned us about this at about $2.80. So that saved me a world of hurt on that position. So again, like, I'm making light of it, whatever. I know it sucks for, you know, a lot of people in this Discord who were very bullish on that project. But again, just we know to trade the charts. Everything else is a gamble, basically. Fundamentals, if fundamentals are going to matter, the chart structure will show that. That's all that matters at the end of the day with trading. Don't get me wrong, if you're looking for cheap prices, I was considering taking a nibble of this now just because it's so low and I feel like it's flatlined, but I mean, it's probably felt like that several times, right? But it's so low. Tempted to take a little swing on this. I might buy a little bit down here. But if it goes straight to zero, I understand, because it's very high risk. I'm fighting the trend. It's low cap. I have no idea what's going on with the project, anything like that. So if it goes straight to zero, my position size will reflect how confident I am in the project, basically. And, you know, if it goes straight to zero, I won't have any sad feelings about it, because that's basically the way I see it. If you're sad, not sad might not be the right word, upset in general. If you're upset about losing a trade, whether that's spot, whether that's with leverage, whether that's anything, you put too much in. That's all there is to it. You got greedy. You should gambling. Trading shouldn't be gambling. Trading shouldn't even be that exciting. Trading should be just systematic, level-headed. Risks are taken into account before entering positions, all that sort of thing. So guys, this is one that's a very harsh lesson for a lot of people, I think. Maybe not that many. I don't know how many people actually hold Trio. I just know that a fair bit of people talk about it and felt bullish about it, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not a fundamental guy. I heard that, you know, they've got stuff in the works and stuff. I hear they're still building. I have no idea, though. I don't follow that kind of stuff. I'm a charts guy. Solana still struggling to gain any momentum there. Bitcoin also still seeing that rejection there. So I still think that Bitcoin could end up going a little bit lower. We are going to have to see. I mean, I was kind of surprised to see us get this bounce a little bit early. I would still not be too surprised to see us come down to either my Stuber support or even swing fail support. That's kind of where I'm eyeing up to look for new long positions. And if we end up losing those lows, then unfortunately Bitcoin just doesn't look very good. It'd still be potential support down closer to 104K, but it's starting to look a little rough. Really don't want to see us lose this support even further down, around 98K. If we lose that, I would hope that it's a very fast wick and then reclaim, and that would be a beautiful long opportunity in my opinion. But if we end up dropping that confidently, I would have my concerns about that. That's a good question, Sock Poker. What is the current market cap? It might be a dead meme coin now. That's a good question. Let me just check something on my phone here. I'm sure I can bring it up. Sorry, one sec. Coin market cap, Trio, Ordinals bot. Market cap, a little over $250,000 is the total market cap there. Yeah. I mean, it's a low market cap if you're looking for that YOLO moon bag. I mean, there it is. I have no idea if they're actually still working on it or anything. But yeah, it's obviously low cap if they still have a product in the works and they're confident on that. It would be a great buy price, but I don't know if they're still around or if they rugged or what happened. But speaking of that, anybody else get rugged by another Trump coin? Or actually, that being said, obviously there was a time period in here that it was doing well. Did anyone do good on the pre-sale on this one? That World Liberty Fi. A bunch of people upset about it. I mean, I don't know why people keep thinking that it's going to be different. There has been Trump coin, Melania coin, World Liberty coin. You know, the list goes on. I don't know why people keep expecting it to be different, and all of a sudden that, you know, the plan that's making that family billions of dollars, they're just going to change their strategy. Fuck no. But it is what it is. Got rugged on all of them, made money on all of them. Say I'm break even. Fair enough. I should probably, at this point, I don't think I really want to short that right now unless it bounces. But it was fun shorting Trump coin for that while. Ooh, a National Geographic crypto scams. I should watch that. Doge AI. Oh, you remember that? I think to this day, Stock Poker, I'm pretty sure, because there was one random stream where I think I did like a 25x long on Doge AI, and I think it ended up hitting like 2500% or something in the course of a day or two. I assume it's gone to zero since then, but that's the thing, right? I mean, things rug pull all the time, things go to zero all the time, but if you, all that matters, I mean, the idea doesn't matter. What matters is the execution. That's why, you know, even looking at Bitcoin with this long that I'm currently in, even if I'm wrong on the theory that we could bounce back to our macro resistance, it doesn't matter because I paid myself along the way. So at this point, break even on the rest, so be it. That's the great thing about trading, is you can be wrong and you can still make money. They most likely live in Dubai. Possible. Or Bangladesh or... Yeah. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you found this stream useful. Hopefully, if you were feeling anxious or upset on the market, hopefully talk a little sense into you, try and calm things down a little bit. But yeah, thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. Also, those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX ALGO indicators that I use each and every day, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below, as well as a link to trade no KYC on BloFin, where I do most of my trading, which also grants access to my private Telegram, where I share some more of my thoughts on the market in general. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.